Today's episode has been brought to you by Schedulicity.
Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. I'm a mother of three, a yoga teacher, and a trainer and consultant who works for yoga teachers. This podcast was created for you so that you can connect information and inspiration every single week to feel supported as you navigate these sometimes very tricky jungles of being a yoga teacher and also an entrepreneur. I get what it feels like, connected yoga teachers. There are so many things coming at us, especially these days. If you are listening in the summer of 2020, we have been through a lot together. We've been through a lot of change. We've been through a lot of supporting our communities, our students, and also ourselves. I'm really excited because Devon, our guest today, allowed me to share a consultation call that we had together. Now, Devon went into this knowing that we could possibly share it. It's a podcast consultation call. Now, the way those work is I invite certain people when I see different questions pop up that I know other yoga teachers are struggling with. Oftentimes, these are teachers who I have worked with in a consultation call or who I have followed. And then we do a consultation call. It is 100% free because I realize that this person is really allowing us to have a view into their business and their challenges and their struggles. During the consultation call, we do record, but the focus is 100% on serving whoever it is that I'm working with. So a lot of the times I will do consultation calls like this that are meant for the podcast and they just don't work out. Maybe I'm clicking around and looking online and looking at their website and it would be something that just wouldn't translate to a podcast. And every once in a while, there's a good one like today's that I'm going to share with you that really works. So after the consultation call, my guest always has the option to say, no, I don't want to share this at all, or I would like you to cut out certain parts and please don't share those parts. I asked Devon, she said, go ahead, share the whole thing. I'm so excited that she's up for that and that you get to hear a consultation call and also so that you can get some ideas if you are feeling stuck with being frustrated with social media. If you are wondering, okay, I'm posting on social and I'm just not getting the engagement from my yoga students that I think I should be getting, or I'm spending so much time, posting to Facebook and Instagram, where else could I be spending my time to connect with yoga students? I think you are going to love today's episode. Today's episode also goes along really well with the last couple of episodes. We talked with Natalie Ekdahl last week and Jessica Stansberry the week before, all about networking with Natalie or connecting with Natalie, and all about email with Jessica Stansberry. So you'll hear those threads come into today's consultation call. If you want to dig in more to email or networking or connecting, definitely go back and have a listen to the last two episodes. I also want to give a shout out of thanks before I introduce you to Devon. Shona from Canada left a review saying, this is a fantastic resource for movement teachers in all modalities. Thank you so much, Shona, for taking the time to leave that review. Also, thank you to Kate from Canada, who left a review saying, this podcast is a must for yoga teachers, new and experienced. Great guests and Shannon's calm voice and intriguing questions are a delight. Always look forward to the next podcast. Thank you so much, Kate, for taking the time to leave a review and also for leaving your first name. If you want to leave a review, you can go to any show notes page. So the show notes for today are at theconnectedyogateacher.com/178. All of the links and the topics will be there for you to refer back to. And if you look at the top, you can see a button that says leave a review. So you can either leave a review in iTunes or you can head on over to our Facebook page and leave a review there. So you'll just go to the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook page. And sometimes it gets confusing. Sometimes people are in the Connected Yoga Teacher group. You can also join that if you are a yoga teacher. The easiest way to find our Facebook group is to go to theconnectedyogateacher.com and you'll see a join button right on our homepage. Alrighty, let's dive in and meet Devon. I think you are going to just absolutely really connect to her struggle and also to the work that she does. Devon Pelto found yoga, tarot, and meditation in 2012 as a new mom in need of tranquility and balance. And that's where she said she also found just support and mental stability. Through these practices, she discovered a new depth of healing from her own childhood trauma that now guides her practice, her parenting, and the way she teaches and shares not only yoga, but also her life coaching. Devon's focus right now is really on self-care, mental, emotional health, and community. And this really shines through her yoga classes. She teaches both corporate, one-on-one classes, group classes, coaching, and also this shines through in her personal life. She has a playful spirit, and I love how she shares so much about what it's like for her to be running this business, and especially around the coaching side of things. There's a real challenge. And for any of you that teach niche yoga or share an offering as a coach or a wellness advocate in some way, you know the work that you do and the difference that you make in people's lives. And sometimes it's hard to convey that. So you'll hear that in today's episode. And I hope it inspires you to really dig into what is your own niche and your own offering. Also have a listen today in the consultation call right near the end, where Devon shares how she heard about something I was selling and offering, and how she actually signs up while we're talking right near the end. This is a really great example of how organic it is when people read your emails and follow you, and then they have questions about an offering that you have. So when we connect to people and we work on, quote unquote sales, but to me, this didn't feel like sales at all. And you'll hear that. I really am excited that you get to hear that near the end of our consultation call today. So have a listen to that. And if you're still wanting to sign up for the training that Devon was talking about, asking me about, and then signed up for, you still can. I will make sure to chat about it in the outro, and I will also make sure that there is a link in the show notes for you. And before I introduce you to Devon, I want to share some of the words that I found on her website that she had written in her bio. We all need healing in some way. We all need support in some way. You do not have to do this alone. Thank you so much, Devon, for letting us have a listen in to your consultation call. Oh, and Connected Yoga Teachers, I will be here at the end for a little wrap up and to tell you what's coming up next week. Hey, Devon, welcome to your consultation call today.
Thank you. I'm so stoked to be here.
I am really looking at how can I be of most service today? How can I help you the most? And this all came from a question that you put in our Facebook group a little while ago. You and I have worked together before, and I really felt this that day. So do you want to explain what was going on with you when you posted this?
Yeah, definitely. So I am getting really curious about ways to step away from social media, but still be actively marketing and drawing in new people and staying connected with current clients. And I think that this little pandemic that we're all going through has kind of really exacerbated my desire to be on social media less and to encourage my clients to be on social media less. So I'm a yoga teacher, but I also do tarot life coaching. So I get really, intimate sessions with people and how they're doing with their mental health. And one thing that comes up a lot is social media and the whole comparing game and, kind of FOMO, the fear of missing out, which is now turning into FOGO, the fear of going out. And it's like as if like all the political posts weren't enough. Now there's an even bigger divide of how we handle what we're all going through together. So my question was really like, has anyone else focused purely on email marketing and encouraging word of mouth and finding like in-person ways of marketing themselves versus feeling like they have to be on social media daily and stay completely interactive at all times on there. Like I've been trying to find people that have done that, and I haven't found many.
Okay. I'm so glad that you asked this question because we know studies have shown, we know our own habits around social media. We get really distracted. Sometimes it also makes us depressed and just feel, really down about our life when we're comparing it to someone else's life. We know all of the sort of negative side of social media. That said, you and I met on social media. I'm sure it was like through Instagram or Facebook or something.
It was your podcast actually on Spotify. So, like I think I ended up finding you on Instagram, and I messaged you there or responded to a story. And that's exactly my point is does my social media truly need to be anything else but a hub of like, I exist, you can reach me here, but I'm not necessarily going to be here daily posting things. Like, what if I took all of that energy and focus for content and put it purely in my newsletter and found more creative ways to reach people outside of social media?
Okay, remind me to tell you about a really cool little study that I did with my own business, comparing email to social media. But before we get there, I want to make sure that I'm clear on the work that you're doing right now. So you're teaching yoga as well as doing tarot, like how, and life coaching. How does this all mesh together? If I was a friend of yours and I had worked with you, maybe I hadn't even worked with you. Let's say I'm a friend of yours. How would I explain your business to someone else?
Yeah, so basically what my little catch line is I work closely with women to help them balance and find fulfillment in their lifestyles and in their mindset. So I work with people a lot, digging into their belief systems, digging into their perspectives about themselves and the world and how they're acting on those things. It turns into a lot of work around getting clarity on values. And once they have the clarity on their values, then they can prioritize those and start to shift their life in a way that reflects those priorities. And then I use things like teaching them yoga, getting them comfortable in their body, getting them to slow down, getting them to have that one pointed focus on just breath or just sensation in a specific posture. And then I also use the tarot and the life coaching are the same thing. I don't need the cards, but they're fun. They're a beautiful tool. People enjoy seeing them. So I use the life coaching side to really dig deeper into those beliefs, the values, their challenges, and what they can focus on. So they always leave with action steps. And I've even created a 4-month program for people, and I use the chakra system to ask questions about different aspects of their self, so they can go really deep. And so it comes together. A lot of my life coaching clients come to my yoga classes. It's like a complement to what they're already doing with me in my work. So in some ways, I also have that benefit of being active in a yoga studio, and I'm seen there. I can do marketing there, and then they come to me and they're like, I want to take it a step deeper. Like, I'm interested in the life coaching part.
Okay.
So that's how they kind of form together a bit.
And so then what do you think is the biggest pain point that people have when they're like, all right, that's it. I'm coming to see Devon. Either I've attended her yoga class or a friend has told me, you know what, you need to go and you've got this thing going on in your life that's causing you pain, physical or emotional. Now, what is that?
I think the biggest pain point, there's a couple things I hear often. I'm in a big transition in my life, and I need to decide which direction I'm going to head. And so they're looking for like clarity on what's the best path. Another big one is I've made it so far. I've collected all the things that I thought I wanted, and there's still something missing. And so a lot of it, again, they don't have the words for it, but what I've noticed the most of is no one has asked themselves, like, what's most important to me? What are my core values? And how can I live my life according to those? Because they've kind of been trained, like, how productive are you? That's how worthy you are of love and attention. And so I kind of zoom them out of that. And I'm like, it's not about your productivity. It's about how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up in relationship. If you're unavailable to be fully present and to practice loving awareness and acceptance, then no practice is ever going to feel enough to you, because all of this has to come from within. So it's a lot of deep digging soul work.
Right. And not everybody is like, oh, yeah, sign me up for that. I want to do that deep digging soul work. But if a friend says to them, I was facing this huge decision, or I was just feeling like something was missing in my life, and Devon helped me. So I know it's super simplified. Like, your explanation of this helps me to really understand the work that you do with these people. But basically, you've told me 2 pain points, like that I need to make a decision, I don't know which direction to go, or I feel like something's missing in my life, I don't feel fulfilled. Those 2 things should be your message over and over again. Like, I just see this visual of this person standing at that fork in the road, like, I don't know which way to go. I feel like you could put together, like, your content needs to talk about these 2 things for sure. It doesn't have to give all of the answers. It just needs to bring up, like, this is what I do. I help people with these 2 things.
Yeah, and one of these 2 other words I like to use a lot is, because I'm really I'm targeting women or people who identify as women, and it comes to a point where many of them, no matter which pain point they're coming from, they're feeling overworked and overwhelmed. So even if they wanted to make changes, they don't feel like they have the time or the energy or the space for it. So whenever I'm kind of in a position to, like, quickly explain what I'm saying, I try to kind of put in there, like, I I support overworked and overwhelmed women to build a lifestyle of balance and fulfillment.
This is so good.
It feels broad still, because, like, isn't that every woman ever? And I'm after the ones that are, like, actually ready to take the action.
Right.
I'm not going to work with you if you're going to spiral in your patterns. Like, take as much time there as you need, love it, learn from it. But once you're ready to jump out of those cycles, I'm your girl.
Right. What you're like, I've had enough. I want off this hamster wheel. Okay. So I love that the overworked and overwhelmed is probably, they still feel like something is missing. Like, they feel like, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough support, or something is missing from my life. So this is good. Okay, so the big question of, do I have to be on social media? One is, like, you do not have to be on social media every day. You can decide the level of how much you want to be on social. And you want to be, like, what I'm hearing from you is you want to stand out. Like, you don't want to contribute to what people are feeling. Like, you want them to have an escape from, like, the political side of politics and also coronavirus. And really, your message is not about politics or coronavirus. Sometimes it might come in, it might be like, are you feeling overwhelmed by social media? And that's okay to post that on social media. I mean, it seems like a weird thing. I was just listening to someone who uses social media all the time. Her entire business is built on social media. And she was saying, I wouldn't be on there if this wasn't my business.
I feel exactly the same way. Yeah.
So you need
and
to... Sorry,
the
go
pressure,
ahead.
the pressure behind, like, making it look a certain way. And it's not so much like I enjoy the design of content, but I refuse to get on social media, put a smile on my face, say, look how well I'm doing, come do well with me. Like, that's not real life. Like, I am looking for the people, like, I'm down in the trenches with you. I have my own history. I am working with my own PTSD. Like, I have my days. All of the really successful social media people that I find, there is a specific style of posts happening, and none of them are really showing the vulnerability, the messy, the humanity, and I will not, make myself look overly good and perfect on social media. Like, I won't do it. In fact, I'm more likely to post when I'm going through a hard time because, one, it shows my imperfection. It takes me off of the yoga teacher, life coach pedestal. Two, people connect with me and they're like, I'm feeling the same way. So I don't feel as alone in my feelings. They don't feel as alone in their feelings. And here we are. But there's no
Yes.
benefit for me only posting when I'm smiling and having a great day.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm so glad that you're calling this out. And that's your authentic way of showing up. And you will stand out because of that when you decide and when you strategically decide, this is my social media posting time. So for a while, you might do a little experiment and say, I'm going to just leave social media on the back burner and not focus on that right now. So what are you using for your email list right now? What
I'm
email?
using MailChimp. Yeah.
And do you mind me asking what your list size is? I know this is a personal
No,
question.
so it's like asking what kind of money you make. No, it's about, I think, around 120. I'm not sure.
Okay. And you were signed up for MailChimp before, so you can schedule things out, right? Still?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to do 2 posts a week, and I'm not too far out in advance, but I like to be, whatever I'm scheduling is for like the next week. I've just started doing 2 emails a week. One is like helpful content, and then the other one is purely like promoting one thing. Like, I have a Babes in Balance, a group life coaching session coming up this weekend. So the email that went out today was just like, here's Babes in Balance. You can sign up here. If you want, you can scroll down and see my yoga schedule. But it really is like trying to get them to just look at that one event.
Okay. So how is it going with the email? Is that where you're getting the most people signing up for your things?
Yeah, at least this go round. And it's been an interesting mix. Like, I've had just a couple of people unsubscribe since I've started to do the 2 email a week thing. But so far, many of them are people that were from the beginning of my business. So like, men are dropping away, which
Right.
obviously, like, it makes sense because I'm calling them babes. And and like, people that I'm pretty close in contact with. Like, I had someone unsubscribe, but like, I see her in person. Like, I teach yoga at her work, one of my corporate clients. So it's been interesting to watch. Now, I'm only maybe week 3 into this switch. So I'm still, just yesterday, I did post 3 things on my Instagram feed because I wanted my yoga schedule up there, easy to find, so that it'll stay there for a while, because I'm not planning on posting a lot more after it. I have my, it shows my brand colors. It's a nice looking flyer. I have the Babes in Balance thing up there, a new quote like I've been doing. So my Instagram is there. It looks nice. It looks relevant. It's a place to contact me, but I don't want it to be anything else.
Right.
So it's mainly been my newsletters. And every time I speak with a client or every time I teach a class, I let them know that my business grows based off of word of mouth. And if they enjoyed me at all, the best thing they can do for me is tell a friend about it, or multiple.
That's so good. Oh, that's so good. Okay. So email, I did this little test in my own business. I had this one thing that I was selling. It was a brand new thing. And I decided to do 3 social media posts. That's when our Facebook group was at 8,000 yoga teachers. It was geared towards yoga teachers. So I scheduled 3 social media posts saying, hey, come sign up for this thing. This is a while back. And then I sent out 1 email. I got 20 people signing up through that 1 email. It went out to 4,000 people at the time. So it was half our Facebook group size. And only 1 person signed up for from the social media.
People take emails more seriously.
They do.
Like we see how many posts a day on social media, thousands, maybe, who knows? But we have given our email to a select few. So if they're already on my email list, they're interested. They're here for it.
Yeah.
If they're on my social media, I'm one of a million.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
yeah, sure, I stand out, but I stand out on like a personal in-person level more so than my social media presence, because I'm just the loud, blunt one that calls people out.
Okay, so we know that email is powerful. It's interesting what you're doing now, that there's like an email where you're giving, and in the same week, you're asking them to sign up or inviting them to sign up to something. I am curious to see how that plays out. I know you're new into it. If you saw that your numbers you saw your unsubscribes really going up, or people weren't signing up, it wasn't working, then I'd say let's go back to the like give, and then ask maybe like 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 of that. But if it's working right now, I'd say stick with it with the email. So the next thing I'd like to focus on, because I love how you said, you've got things up on your social media and you're leaving it there. It's not like you're telling me, that's it, I'm shutting all of my social media channels down. I'd caution that like level of, okay, I don't want to be there. The next thing I want you to focus on is your network. So you already talked about word of mouth is one of your most powerful things. And I think this is the thing that we have forgotten. And especially right now in the pandemic, it's like I have been talking to yoga teachers who have left their studio and they don't have an email list. They never were growing an email list. So all they have left is this word of mouth. And really, it's the most powerful. So if you think of a circle, and that circle is your smiley face in the very middle, and then you draw a circle around that, and that circle is your network of people who know you. So they're your family, they're your friends, they're your yoga students. I'm in that circle. I know you from working together and from your social media. So it doesn't have to be someone who knows you like your best friend. They just know of the work that you do. But often that circle either doesn't understand the work that we do, or they don't know what it is. Like, how many people in that circle of people who know you are like, she's a yoga teacher?
I mean, everyone I know knows I'm a yoga teacher because that one's the most easy to explain.
Right.
But it's the life coaching I really want to focus on now. And like I mentioned, that my dream business setup was to virtually be doing these life coaching sessions. So I had flexibility of, just everything, traveling, choosing if I want to be teaching yoga in studios, because I'm less enthused about that these days. And yeah, it's been interesting during the pandemic because I have gotten, especially in the beginning, quite a few random calls from, for me, random people, because I did pop up in their mind as a person that could teach meditation and a person that could teach the healthcare workers yoga. And so it was really nice for me to see that when whoever told them, they're like, man, it would be really great to have a mindfulness practice for us, in this doctor's office, or maybe we should treat our employees to a yoga class and see if that helps. I came up in people's mind like at least 5 times in the beginning of the pandemic. And so that was really validating for me. I was like, oh, like people do listen. They do know who I am. They do know part of what I'm doing. And I don't promote being a meditation teacher. I've done it for years and years and years. But it kind of made me think like they're really, even though they know I'm a yoga teacher, they've broadened it, and like they think of Devon Pelto when they need yoga, meditation, or life coaching. And I'm like, that is exactly what I'm after.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that because you've been talking to people who are also dealing with overwhelm, you popped into their mind. So there were certain people who popped into my mind when my audience was saying, like, we're really stressed out. Diane Liska, who we had on the podcast, and she was talking about compassion fatigue, and she's a psychotherapist who brings yoga into what she does. I know that she deals with trauma in many ways, and I wanted to pick her brain at this time about it. Like, she's someone who popped into my mind right away. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So another example is, my brother works with computers, and it wasn't until like in the last month I actually realized he's a software developer. He develops software. I didn't know that. I mean, I feel like we're really close. We talk every week, and I didn't know that. So I think that and it's not like I did ask him to help me with a project, but it's not like I would be reaching out for him to be part of my team or to work with me. But until I actually understood what he did, I couldn't tell other people either. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings me back to what we talked about whenever that was when we first worked together. I don't even know how long it's been. But the whole niching point, like I did niche down to women who are feeling this way, but I am constantly wondering if that's a specific enough niche or not.
It'll happen. You'll probably niche down again. That's probably where you're headed right now. And sometimes in a time like where the whole world is facing a change and there's a pandemic, sometimes that opens up a spot in a niche. But I think you're already there. You have overwhelm is probably higher right now than overworked. Although there are plenty of women who are trying to work from home and they have their kids at home and they're doing so many other things. So there are still overworked people for sure.
And a lot of my clients are already starting to tap into the anxiety around reintegrating. So that has been a real thing. Like, even though they're not yet stepping back into the office, big business is talking about bringing them back in already. And so it's not only the anxiety around having to show up to a space that may or may not be clean, but also they had this opportunity to slow down and to focus on things more important to them and to be with family. And now they're starting to already be upset that they have to leave that in a way. So there's this balance of trying to kind of coach them through, like, again, let's pick apart these values and what can you compromise on and still feel fulfilled, and what can you just let go now that you've had this opportunity to kind of recreate. Just yesterday, I had someone and she's like, she had started all these projects, but now her business is like, we could be coming back in a couple weeks. She's like, that's not enough time to finish all these projects. And so now it's like she's overwhelmed about that. So it's always always something.
Yeah, it's always there. And you could even decide, okay, for the next 6 weeks maybe, or 4 weeks or whatever, or this month, I will focus solely on overwhelm, and that will be my message. You can always try a niche on for a while. It doesn't mean that you have to revamp your whole website. Connected Yoga teachers, I'm popping in here for a moment before we hear more from Devon to just hear from our sponsor, Schedulicity.
Hey Connected Yoga teachers, this is Shayna with the Schedulicity Hot Tip of the Week. Schedulicity and Instagram work together in perfect harmony for your yoga business. You can connect your Instagram account with your Schedulicity business listing and automatically filter your images using a hashtag specific to your business. You can also connect your Schedulicity account with your Instagram business account to add a book button to your Instagram profile and posts. Catch the whims of your Instagram followers when they're the most inspired by your social media content. For more information, visit essentials.schedulicity.com or inquire at support@schedulicity.com. We'd love to help you get the most out of your online accounts.
Thank you so much, Team Schedulicity, for making today's episode possible. And now back to the consultation call with Devon. And so what happens with this network of people, I want to come back to this because I want you to get creative and you're already at the place. You're like, okay, social media is not doing it for me. I want to connect with people on a different level. And so what's been taken away is our in-person meeting up with people as much as we were. So you used to work at a place where you did tarot, and that place is closed right now. So is there a way to create something like that or some aspect of that that's more virtual, like more online? Or can you sometimes we can set up like a Zoom coffee call with a friend. So we're looking at that immediate network, like our friends, our, maybe our yoga students who we were close with. Those people, how can we connect to them again? I mean, do you call people, or are you of the generation where you don't call people on the phone?
Phone calls are more uncomfortable than texting. But that is one thing that I've done since kind of this realization of not wanting to be on social media is I go down my list, because I do have a spot where I keep my clients and information, or I'll go through my calendar and see like, okay, how many months has it been since I've talked to so and so. One thing I've been doing for a good while now is I always follow up a week or two after their session with me. And I'm like, because I always give them action steps anyway. So I'm like, how's it going? And I write down those action steps and save them so I can come back to them. And I'm like, I remember what we talked about. How have you been feeling about that? Have you had opportunities to practice that? Like, what comes next? And that has been where I really see them appreciate the work that we've done. Right afterward, they're like, oh, that was great, hoorah. But it's not till they've already processed and tried to integrate that information into their lives. And then I pop up again and I'm like, sup, girl? And they're like, oh, either like I've avoided it completely. Thank you for reminding me and like keeping me accountable, or they share their success or share their challenge, and on we go. And they're like, yeah, I actually do need another session.
Okay, that's great. That follow-up is amazing. Do you usually do that in an email?
I usually do it in an email, or if they have always specifically used a certain platform. Like some people do like to just use Instagram messaging.
Mm-hmm.
I've really enjoyed the voice messages on there. So whenever there's an opportunity to not like weirdly call people out of the blue, but still have my voice or my face, a video message, I try to use those. But if they are contacting me through email, then I try to stay within their comfort zone at least a little bit.
That's amazing. So there are a few tools that you can also do a video. It's faster. If you wanted to do a check-in with them, you can either use Loom. It's useloom.com. It's free. They might start to charge for it at some point, or there is a limit to how many videos you can have on there. There's another tool that I've been playing with this week, which is called Bomb. It allows you to stick a video right in there, which can be really fun. And the both of them give like a little snippet of the video, like you can tell that there's a video and it's ready to play. People really appreciate that. Like they feel like, oh wow, you've gone this extra step. And for me, most of the time, if it's going to be a check-in email or something more in depth, it's faster than me sitting there and typing. Like I can
I
talk
agree.
faster. So,
And they don't need any sort of like subscription to watch those videos to anything. I've seen
nothing.
you use Loom before. I
Yeah.
have been curious about it.
Yeah. And
Okay.
sometimes it will ask you to have like just a circle of your image over a website. So say if you could even be looking at their action steps and say like, sometimes you can share your screen, or maybe you have something else to show them like, hey, in case you're wondering, like this is also opening up.
But there's an
Something like
option
that.
to not have that screen share as well.
Yes, there is.
And so you're saying those are easy to embed in emails or?
Yeah, very easy.
Okay.
So Loom, it's very intuitive. You can either share the screen and there's a little Chrome plugin for Loom, or you can go right to Loom and create a video there as well and not share the screen.
Okay. I like that.
What I like, even sometimes if you decide to share the screen, like let's say I was answering someone about the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast, then I can have my website as the background and I'm just there. So I'm there as a little talking circle. And it's kind of like it's branded. But that's not necessary at all. Like it can just be you on video.
Yeah, I do try to make it as personal as possible. You know, like I really like to talk to my clients in that personal way, in the sense of it's just like, yes, I am a business owner. Yes, you pay me for these services, but also like I do care. Like I'm not going to throw my brand at you every single time we talk.
Yes.
It's helpful if you talk about me, and I'm going to ask you that when we work together. But I also don't want them to feel like, oh, she must have something else she's selling and she's checking in with me to tell me that, not because she cares about me.
Right. Yeah, that's super important as well. I know that you'll do that dance really well. Like organically building those relationships is amazing. Also, are there ways in your community that you could connect with those women who are overwhelmed? Like, I don't know if before you were going to any, let's see, like Chamber of Commerce, or where, like, are there community groups in your area that have mostly women attending?
Yes, and I'm also a mother, so there's a lot of parenting groups as well. One thing I was working on building right before the pandemic was I really wanted to get into public speaking. And so I was looking up all these places and kind of compiling, and I had already reached out to places even. And because what I've noticed is I'm saying the same things in my life coaching over and over and over and over again. So I've been compiling things that do come up over and over, and I could talk for an hour about clarifying values. And if I can do that in front of a group of people, then like right there, and again, like I'm just an easy person to relate to connect to. I'm enthusiastic. Like my in-person interactions are what get me the furthest. So yeah, and I know a lot of those things have tried to go virtual and not been super successful. Everyone's just kind of overwhelmed by all of the online offerings right now. So I have kind of like just gone back to relying on kind of this network circle that we're talking about here. And, you know, like a big chunk of it is I don't really have the energy to be out there and looking for new things right now. I have been at home homeschooling for the first time and keeping my own mental health, you know, like sustainable and trying to stay connected with my loved ones. So I have been playing the trust game with the universe of like, here's where I'm at. Like, let's make it work. I'll put in the effort, but I'm not going to overstep my own energetic boundaries. I'm just going to trust. And I've made it this far. You know, I could always be making more money, sure, but I'm not going to be any help to anyone if I'm overworked and overwhelmed. So
That's so good that you're doing the work that you're helping other people to do. Like that's a huge message.
This pandemic has been my time to really like step away and like up my spiritual practice and like drop into meditation and chanting like never before. So when I do make an appearance, I don't have to say, look how good my life is on social media. They're just like, how the cuss are you feeling so good when I'm over here? And it's just like, oh, well, I've got things I can share with you.
Right, exactly. I am wondering, because you had this public speaking thing in mind, and because you have events coming up, I'd love to see you get paid for some visibility stuff. I know that the pain point for people is not, I need to look at my values. Like, no one
No one
has that
thinks
depth.
that.
No.
Right.
I'm sorry if I've just offended people who do have that depth and they but most often we're not like, I need to reevaluate all of my values and look at those. But I
No,
wonder,
they haven't even thought of that when I get to them. When I say that to people, the look on their face is so fascinating. They're like, values. I'm like, well, what are you basing your priorities and actions off of? Well, I have to make money. I have to feed my children. It's like, yes, and what about your wellness? So yeah, and again, I think it comes out in that way of like, they're like, I'm doing everything I should be doing, and yet I'm not content.
yeah, something's missing. Those are the
Yes,
something's missing bucket.
they're confused basically when they get to me, overwhelmed and confused why this lifestyle isn't working.
That's really good. I would love to see you put together something that would I don't know what it would look like. I'm wavering on, is there, like, I know for building my list, what has worked really well is doing like a challenge that I did live, and then you don't have to call it a challenge. I often do. It addresses a pain point people move through in those baby steps, and then at the end, there can be a sell. Like, oftentimes people who stay with it and do the work and they see the results, they're like, how can I do more of this? And so that's a freebie to build your list and then to offer them something else. Like, a great outline of that on our website is the 5-day content challenge, which someone told me they didn't get the second email. So I need to look into our email funnel of like what's happening with that. But I had done it live and then we made it into an evergreen. So it continuously builds my list. And also, those people, if they've gone through that and they like my style, often they'll sign up for something else, like maybe a consultation call or a different program.
Yeah, I like that idea because when I can do it via email, like they can always sign up for that extra, challenge, if that's what we call it.
Well, and you could think
and
of your value recipe that you have over, 3 to 5 days. And then at the end of it, could there be something else where they really dig in and do? Like, do you have something coming up? Let's check in with that first. What's your next thing that you're trying to fill?
Sunday.
Okay.
I have that Babes in Balance, the group coaching session for women.
Now, that's a great example.
that's
I want to ask you a few questions about this to fill it quickly. Do you have sticky notes out for people? Like, do you have some sticky note system?
I used to do that. I haven't done that in a while.
Sometimes if I'm struggling to fill it, then that's what I go back to.
Okay, that's fair.
I know
I
it
like
seems
that.
so elementary. Or, I mean, it can
I do
be a
have
list.
it for my, yeah. I do have that for my 4-month program, and I just have one blank spot left.
See the power of it?
It's real.
Okay. So sticky notes for sure. And then just thinking of people who might be a good fit for it.
I actually have kept track of everyone who has come to that event in person, and I have a group on Instagram, like a message group. And so I let them know every time I check in with them. They're not super interactive, but I can at least look at the list and then reach out to them individually and be like, how are you doing? This is coming up, because it's a cheaper way to still get the benefits of my work and to meet other people and not feel so alone. So I've been kind of marketing that as needing connection and clarity. You can get it all in this one spot.
Oh, that's so nice, especially right now. So there might be some very simple things that people don't know. I know that I looked at this. I looked at attending one. I think that's what it was. It came up, I missed it, and then it was gone. I was like, oh, shoot, I missed that. And so there are many other people who just haven't seen the invite come back up. And that's when social media can help you. If you're like, hey, we're all going to be connecting on Zoom. And if you told me what it looks like, it takes down the barriers. Like, what day is it? What time is it? How much is it? How do I have to dress up for it? Is it virtual? Can you see my video? Like, these are very basic questions that people would have about it. So those are the things you can address on like an Instagram story, in case you're sitting on the fence, here are the details.
I posted something on my actual feed that had those details. It even says like PJs and coffee encouraged.
Right.
And that it's on Zoom, because it's like I try to make it as casual as possible, because we're all having to like put on our button up, and then like we're not wearing pants on the bottom. I'm like, just show up in all your glory. Like, come on. But yeah. And that's the one thing too that I've noticed about social media is my friends can't share my stories, but if I post on my feed, they can share that post on their stories. And so I have a group of friends that have different small businesses, and we've kind of like vowed to share each other's posts on our stories to kind of expand our reach, if you will.
That's so good.
But I could, and that's the other thing though, is like I have a deep resistance to going on social media and daily making a new story.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it. I would use it as one of the tools. Once you're sitting and looking at your sticky notes, you think to yourself, how can I get one person to sign up today? And then you might think, all right, I need to make sure it's at the top of my email this week. Okay, did that. Now, how else could I do it? Maybe I could reach out to 3 people in a private message or in a video message through email that's only to them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can make a Facebook event.
I've had the most engagement through that one-on-one. Even I've just launched this 4-month program like in March, so it's fairly new. I mean, I created it like a year ago, but here we are. And even the people that are like, I can't commit to that because like I just got laid off or I just got a pay cut because of this pandemic. They're like, but I do need something. And so I've at least gotten like, they're like, well, give me an out. Like, I'm not going to do the program, but I will work for you. Like, I do really need a reading right now. Or, man, next month, I know I'm going to have a little bit extra. And then I write that down and I hit them up again whenever they say. So, like, I have gotten the most out of that, just checking in one-on-one.
I know that for a while you were, I don't know if you're still doing it, with the tarot cards I was seeing on your stories of like pulling a card and sharing on there.
I got 0 readings out of that.
I wonder if you switch the wording to start with the pain point, where it's like maybe you hear something from someone that you're working with or in your program or whatever, where they say, like, you've already come up with lots of examples. Like, if you're feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list today, or if you're feeling overwhelmed because you're doing homeschooling today, I'm going to pull.
So make it more specific.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I saw someone else doing with tarot cards is like people got to choose. Do you want to choose A or B? And they put like a little A and B. And then they said, this is for all of you who chose A. This is for all of you who chose B or something. But I would make it specific to those pain points, like that overworked, overwhelmed, something's missing from their life, or they are sitting at a crossroad and making a decision.
I have a couple thoughts on that. One is back to social media.
Right.
You know, one thing that I have tried to do is I've made a YouTube channel, and I have a decent collection of videos specific to certain pain points where they can click in, see my advice on that subject. I'm not getting a lot of traffic there. I don't really. Well, for a while, I was doing weekly videos and sending them out in my newsletters. And even then, I wouldn't get a lot of clicks. But the thing, like, going back to like posting these things on social media daily or even weekly, like, I'm not seeing a lot come from that. And also, I am trying to create space from people. When people hear and see tarot cards, their mind goes to the crystal ball,
Right,
and the head wrap. So lately I've been working at emphasizing the life coaching and my experience and wisdom, if you will, versus it's these magical cards.
Okay,
And
I love this.
I'm thinking that pulling a card, I'm almost at the point where I want to stop showing the card. Maybe I'll pull a card personally and then I'll just speak, because it's just unnecessary. And it brings up a lot, I think, of belief barriers in people. Some people, not all people. Some people come to me because they're so enthralled by the cards. Great. But people that aren't used to that yet, it's an unnecessary piece of working with me, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. I'm so glad that you brought this up. I wonder then if sometimes if you decide to go on social, like you are very video likable. I don't know how to say it. You're really good on video. You're good on the fly. I wonder if you say, I'll be going live and I want us all to vent about the overwhelm we're feeling or how we're feeling overworked. And based on, like, maybe then you can chat about it and talk about, here are some things that are working with people that I'm working with.
My only experience with going live is it's real awkward when it's you and one other person. Like when not a lot of people show up, and it's like I'm talking to air, and then it's like this live video, and it's like I don't want anyone to rewatch that. Like that was like, so I feel like especially right now people are showing up less to all of these online things because there's so many online things. I'm doing the same thing. Like even my closest friends, all of their offerings are now online, and I can't keep up, and I refuse to try.
I think that's okay. I think that you will find the ones that you gravitate the most right now to, and you're not your ideal audience. You are working at trimming away time on social media. Like, you know that. But the people who are sitting there mindlessly scrolling, because we know that there are more people on social media right now than ever. That's your audience, and just imagine the impact you can make if you kind of fill that time. Like for the people who are saying, I'm overwhelmed, I have no time. Well, they just found you scrolling mindlessly. So
that's fair.
I wonder, even if you tell your email list, hey, I'm going live at this time and I want to focus completely on what are you overwhelmed with? Because this is how I come up with how I help all of you. Like you're just getting in touch with those people. Or it might be private messages. Hey, so-and-so, you can choose from people who open your emails a lot, but who aren't showing up. to the things that you're offering, I wanted to reach out because I'm doing this next project on overwhelm. And I want to find out from people, what are you actually overwhelmed about?
This is an idea I can get behind. I like that. I like that because they get to vent and it helps me.
Yes.
And then, of course, they would want to show up if I'm going to talk about specifically what they just told me.
Yes.
Cool. I like that.
All
and I
right,
can
good.
still use, that's exactly how I want to use social media, is having it there for the beautiful tool that it is, but not relying on it in any way at all. It's just an accessible way to connect.
It's so true. It's so true. Use it. Like, use it well and shut it down when it's overwhelming.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not against it by any means. I mean, I was a social media marketer for 8 years. So like, I get it. I get the benefits, but I also get the disadvantages and what it's causing our society as well. Because let's be real, not many of us have great impulse control. Like, and a phone knows that. It's literally made to keep us on it. So
Oh, yes,
here we are.
It is. This is so great. You've done so much work over I don't know how long it's been since we first connected.
At least a year.
Yeah, at least. I've been
Maybe
podcasting
2.
for 3 years, so I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah, I mean, and you're a great example of what I'm talking about, because I found you through Spotify. I found you on Instagram, and you replied to my reply to a story with a voice message, and that was it for me. I was like, she saw me. I'm seen. Hallelujah. And then I booked a session with you.
Exactly. See? And never in
I
there
didn't
was
find
it.
you
Like,
on Instagram, though.
no, and I'm not there very much. I'm so horrible at posting on my feed. I just get tired of it. I need to pass it over to my team. You know, it needs to be, I want to do like personal posts. I love to do those. And I want a curated feed. I want so many things on social, but actually email and the podcast are the podcast is my main content. So if you know right now that email is your main content, there are people who have built their entire business on email.
And I will say, I do have a podcast in the works. A friend of mine, she's an integrative health PA in town. And so we're starting a podcast on women aren't supposed to talk about.
Oh, that's so good.
Hoping that will be kind of like a big visibility point. And it's just going to be hilarious, but also really helpful. So it'll really help me like shine my personality too.
Oh, that's so good. In the meantime, you might look at getting on other podcasts. That's another great way. Like right now, lots of people are dealing with overwhelm. So you might try and pitch some podcasts.
I just saw this great workshop coming up about how to be a good podcast guest. And I'm like, man, too bad this didn't happen in a different order.
It's today. It's today at 2 o'clock. It is
today?
Yes.
Eastern? 2 o'clock
2 o'clock Eastern.
All right. Well, you better load this podcast right now so people can hear this marketing.
There's no part of me was going to pitch that for the podcast and get that going. But yeah, that would be a great way to figure out how to pitch. There's 4 of us going to be there, and we've heard some awful pitches. So we're telling people this is how to get in front of us and get our attention. Yeah.
Right on.
How can people work with you if they are feeling overwhelmed or overworked, or if they're facing a big decision?
Yes. So my website is devonearth.com. My name's Devon with an O, so it's a little play on my name, Dev on Earth. And that's my handle everywhere, at Dev on Earth, on Instagram, on Facebook. Real simple. I just created a freebie for my newsletter. It's Babes with Boundaries. It's like an 8-page PDF with a little video. It takes you through steps on how to figure out what your values need to be. Again, going back to that value work. So yeah, and I'm here. I'm excited to continue with this work. Like I've never been so enthusiastic about it before. So yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Alrighty, connected yoga teachers, I want to hear from you. What was your key takeaway in listening to this consultation call with Devon today? You can either leave me a voice message. You can find the button for that on our homepage over at theconnectedyogateacher.com, or leave a comment in the show notes page. So theconnectedyogateacher.com/178. Devon, again, thank you so much for letting us have a look into your business and this challenge around social media that all of us at some point feel. One of the key takeaways for me in this Connected Yoga Teachers is that sometimes this is how long a consultation call will go on. A lot of conversation will go into someone explaining what their business is, and then I start to see these threads where Devon was really outlining these two groups of people that she would work with, someone who's feeling this overwhelm in life or someone who is facing a decision. And I know it feels super scary to niche down, but I can't say it enough to just try on that niche, that even if Devon decided, okay, I'm only going to focus in on the people that are facing a big decision in life, she would talk to her audience in that way and find it more and more. And then she might choose to niche down even further. This is just an example. This is not where Devon needs to go at all, but just to give you an example, because it's often easier to see it with someone else's business. She could then decide to niche down even further to say, I help people who are facing a large decision about their career path. And you see how that niche work just keeps happening. So Devon has done a lot of niche work already in her business, and I love seeing the progression of that in her business and also with other yoga teachers that I work with. If you are interested in doing a podcast consultation call, a consultation call where you get a free call and then it possibly turns into a podcast interview, feel free to email our team info@theconnectedyogateacher.com and tell us why this is a unique question that we haven't covered yet in the podcast. Really outline the struggles that you are facing and let me know that you're interested in a podcast consultation call. Now, I only do a certain number of these each year, but I would love to hear from you if you are a regular listener, you know the topics that we've covered, and you have a question that you think other yoga teachers have. And if you want to still sign up for the podcast pitch training, you still can. I will make sure to link to that in the show notes. I did this with my good friends, Amanda Kingsmith, Amanda McKinney, and Mado Hesselink. We had so much fun putting this together. If ever you are thinking, I'd really like to be a guest on Shannon's podcast, all of the tips and tricks to pitch me as a podcaster and any other podcast are in that training. It's $25. It is worth it. There's a PDF. There's a full hour and a half of training. We answered all kinds of questions. And I feel like it really sets you up to pitch a podcast and be an amazing podcast guest. And that's one little update that I have to share. Devon is actually putting a podcast together. Devon, I want to, kind of give you a little nudge here. And in that update email, you said that you're putting a podcast together. I would love to, at some point, link to that in our show notes. So it won't be there until the podcast is ready, but as soon as it is, tell us about it so that we can add it to the show notes. I wanted to also just tell you what's coming up next week. This is an episode that I've been so excited about for a while. Alicia Baruti from Bomb Bomb is going to talk to us about how to be confident when sharing video. So many of you have asked me questions about how to do video and how to feel confident and share video with your yoga students. This episode is one that you have to listen to. It is not just your, step one, turn your camera on kind of thing. This interview really gets into the roots where it's scary to do video. And here are the things to think about and remember as you go to share video. And I feel like this goes along so well with the last few episodes that we've done. So in today's episode, Devon was talking about, if we're tired of social media, how can we still connect with people? Video is a big part of that. And I was talking with Devon about, having more of that organic connection with people and possibly doing video. Last week, we heard from Natalie Ekdahl on how to connect, aka network, and video really plays into that. Natalie talked about the importance of video in that episode. And the previous week, we talked about email with Jessica Stansberry. And all of these together really offer a recipe for connecting with your potential yoga students. So I'd say listen to these 4, kind of write out a list of ideas that you have, and then just implement one thing at a time for your own business. Honestly, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I'm just like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I want to do that. All of these things that I think about. And the biggest change that I see in my business is when I just take one idea and implement that and try it out and change it for my business. Make that a habit in my business and then add something else. Please do not try to add everything at once. Okay, connected yoga teachers, I know this has been a super long and packed episode, and so it is time for me to sign off. Thank you, Suzanne, Crunch, Nick, and Sinead, our connected yoga teacher team, for making this podcast possible. Also to our sponsor, Schedulicity, and also to you, dear listener, for taking the time, investing the time for your own yoga business. It means a lot. And I want to know, what will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?